the faster you get over what you can't reach,
Yeah.
like the faster you'll get to where you need to be.
The hardest part is figuring out what you want to master.
Focus on your product.
Can you tell somebody that they suck?
You got to just go for this is exactly what I want to do for a living.
You can't even tell somebody that their breath is life.
All right, what's up, man? Welcome.
Hey,
Welcome to the Short Story Long podcast.
thank you.
This is technically your second appearance
Yeah,
because we did a Agenda Live. How long ago was that now? 2 weeks?
a couple weeks, yeah.
2 weeks. It was the podcast before last at Agenda in Long Beach,
Yep.
which was really cool. I mean, first and foremost, thanks for doing that.
No, thank
It
you
was
for
great.
the invite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you killed it.
I appreciate it.
And then the good news is you've listened to the pod before. It was actually there that you
Yeah.
were like, yeah, I'd love to come on sometime. And I'm like, well, what are we waiting for? Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So thanks for doing this back-to-back one.
Oh no, I appreciate the invite. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Been a listener for a good amount of time,
I love that.
and I was excited just to do the shared pod
Yeah,
panel.
yeah.
That was actually a great time.
I think it even translated well on the actual audio. You know, like I had
Yeah.
multiple people hit me up and be like, oh, I really learned this from it or that from it, whatever.
Yeah.
But I just think like I'm trying to figure out how I could potentially take these relationships and these topics and stuff and do like live
Yeah.
things. But that felt pretty damn good.
Yeah,
You know?
no, it was fun.
Yeah. So let's get into it, Mickey. Where are you from out here? Where are you from?
So born and raised in LA.
Really?
Yeah.
What part?
It would be considered like off the 101 in Alvarado,
Got it.
extended Echo Park, I guess
Yep.
you could say. Was born there and actually moved to the San Fernando Valley, the
Got it.
Warren Valley,
Yep.
when I was about 5 years old. Little brother was born, and then spent pretty much almost the rest of my life until about 2 years ago in the Valley.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you love the Valley?
You know what? I used to give all my friends a lot of like shit
Yeah.
for not like coming to visit me or
Yeah.
like, we had like, and when I was in high school, we had a full court basketball court, swimming pool, like the whole vibe. And I'm like, man, like, is it really that much hotter out here?
Yeah.
And
Yes, it is.
just a year ago, I moved downtown and I go visit my parents sometimes. I'm like, I don't blame
It's
anybody.
a whole different world,
Bro,
man.
it's like,
It's so crazy.
I don't
can't
even want to go to the
believe-
Valley. Like,
Yeah, even last week, like, I mean, shit, I went there like 2 days ago
Yeah.
when it was like 85 over here and it was like 93.
Yeah,
It just feels like a whole different thing.
it's a whole different thing.
What how deep in the valley did you live?
So I grew up in a small city called Arleta.
Mm-hmm.
It shares the zip code with a pretty gang-heavy city, Pacoima.
Got it.
And grew up there. And then right around my senior year in high school, we moved to a city called North Hills.
Got it. So
And,
all around.
Yeah, so like in that area, it's like a 5-mile like radius
Yeah.
moving wise. And actually D like grew up, I think, the city over from
Yeah.
where I did.
Yeah, that's funny. That's
Yeah,
deep though.
The hills.
That's
It
where
is
it's
deep.
really hot.
118.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
man.
get to that side. That's the temperature too.
No shit. That's how you get there and it's the temperature.
Right, exactly.
What so you had one younger brother, is that it? Is that only sibling?
That's my only sibling.
Got
One
it.
little brother, Andy. He was a real big pest and pain in the butt, like
Yeah.
some younger brothers.
Are you guys
So-
close
so
now
I-
or no?
Closer than ever.
Really?
Yeah. It took a lot of like hardships and tough times, specifically in business, actually, for us to just kind of get out of our, own worlds, if you will,
Yeah.
and find a way to work together.
Does he work with you?
He doesn't, at least not now.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Yeah.
For now, at least.
For now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think we needed time to grow. We basically he had a clothing line when he was in college.
Yep.
Went to Riverside and was selling tees out the trunk,
Really?
and like doing his thing.
Yeah.
And developed the name and a brand. And it's around the same time that I was DJing
Yep.
at the time. And from that we turned it into a actual flagship store
Yeah.
in Granada Hills. It was like a mile away from my parents' office.
Yeah.
And we just tried to sell teas, man. And that was probably the coolest and yet the most difficult time for
Yeah.
us, I think, as brothers.
Yeah. Is that when you were less close then, or is that when you were kind of bonding?
I think that's where he was just finding his own like legs in the world, you know, and he was at the time, I'd say, he had found his lane in the corporate world, like working for a hard money loan company, and I was still trying to figure out what I was trying to do.
Yep.
Outside of just DJing and you know, crazy nights.
And what, like, obviously I'm fascinated by it because I grew up in Ohio, but like, walk me through childhood growing up in both the Echo Park area and the Valley. Like, what sort of cultures were you influenced by? Like, early interests? Like, what's it look like growing up in this area?
Yeah, so my nationality is Central American. I'm Guatemalan, and before it was poppin' to be Guatemalan, and Salvadorian, which tend to be a little on the energetic side. I'll say it the positive way. That's my mom. She's crazy. Love you, mom. Yeah, growing up in Echo Park, not too many experiences. It was definitely very cultured. Going to church every morning or every Sunday, I should say, and you know, spending time at Echo the Park.
Yep.
And then when we moved to the Valley, it was, you know, for us, it was very much just keeping your kids involved in sports and different things like that. Hot weather, you know, so trying to find the nearest like community pool.
Oh yeah.
And you know, my parents both you know, migrated and met at a hotel that they both worked at.
Yep.
And so, you know, them just being able to buy a house, you know, and being able to buy a car, their first car, cash, and all that stuff, like, was big, you know, steps for us as a family. And yeah, I think most of my time that I remember, because to be quite honest, I didn't spend a ton of time with them because they were always working. My dad worked 2 different jobs. He was actually still a valet attendant in Century City, while also developing like his real estate license. And when we first bought the house, that's where he got that interest into doing that. And eventually both of them went into that industry.
Is that what they do now?
Yeah. So they've been in that business for about 20 something years. My dad is actually a real estate broker, so they have their own company. My mom's the agent, and she swears she does all the work. My dad just signs the paperwork.
That's so good. And they're still together?
They're still together.
That's great. I feel like it'd be so hard to work with your...
It's yeah.
You know?
I wouldn't even think about
That'd
it.
be
Like,
brutal. You just have like a bad work day, you know, and you're like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, and
know?
you go home and it's just like, so are we gonna cuddle or not?
Yeah, heck
like,
no.
No chance.
Did you ever any issues with like getting in trouble or anything like that, especially growing up around that stuff?
I was a pretty innocent kid. I think my mom definitely put the fear in everyone's lives.
Yep.
If you did anything too crazy. I went to some pretty like, I guess I wasn't exposed to too many different, like, I guess you say, bad things. I didn't really have my first like sip of alcohol till I was like 20 maybe, or 19.
That's pretty damn good.
Which is like crazy, you know?
Yeah.
I still remember though, like going to a house party, and I was always the guy that would look out for my friends, you know, whatever. And I think I had like a bottle of Hennessy in one of my duffel bags, and my mom found it and she cried.
Really?
And she was
in
like,
front of you?
Yeah, like she was like, "What are you doing with your life?" And like how did this end up? Like, are you drinking? Like, can you just talk to me? I'm like, Mom, like,
chill.
It wasn't even me.
That's funny. It's funny. I was talking to one of my friends the other day about like how I just felt like, because I didn't really get in much trouble when I was younger, and I really felt like I just had so much respect for my mom, and I knew how much she would be bummed out. You know, like your mom crying and being like, "What are you doing?" is like the worst thought.
It's,
you know, it's
so
funny how
tough.
that can, like, a little bit of discipline and a little bit of like just actually caring can really go a long way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it cements in your brain. And I think for me, you know, I understood at an early age, at least, the sacrifices. You know, given like literally we'd eat takeout all the time because they didn't have time to cook. I don't even recall. My mom has like 4 dishes, like go-to dishes, and it's always the same thing. Out of respect, you're like, okay, like, I got you.
All right, Mom.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, this tastes so good.
It's amazing. It's my favorite, you know? And it is. You know, got to make sure you cover all the bases.
Mom,
but,
great dishes. All 4 of them.
All 4 of them. But, you know, not to poke fun at her too much, but it was, I understood the sacrifices she made, and they've, I could say for sure to this day, they're still like people that I can look at as mentors in how they handle themselves and how they've, built their own little empire.
Yeah, so cool. When did you start getting, like, were you young when you started getting into like sneaker culture and stuff like that, or no?
So I played sports at a local park, Brantford Park. Shout out to them in Arleta. That's where I met like a lot of the core guys that I still talk to daily.
Yeah.
And I think with basketball, naturally, Michael Jordan being probably one of the most influential people ever in the sneaker business or sneaker culture.
Yeah.
It's always been there. And I never really had an opportunity to get like every Jordan, or I got a lot of Jordans when I was young. Like you were lucky to get one or two, or just do enough dishes or yard work to get your first pair. But definitely that's where it came from. And then I was also a huge Allen Iverson fan.
Got it.
Growing up, and I literally, that was like the first time I tried to collect like every model.
Yeah.
And I was like just so hardcore about it.
Yeah.
So that was really like my intro to it, and just being around basketball. I think you'd always want a fresh pair of kicks like for the season and things. So that was like really my first introduction into that world.
And did you, like, in high school sort of time frame, were you starting to put together what you thought maybe like, your dreams would be, or like your goals would be? Like, did you think, was there anything, this is a big thing too, is like a lot of times people start to form those and they were totally different. Like maybe you thought you were going to be like a baseball player or something like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people start to show like these entrepreneurship qualities super early. Like, did any of that happen to you?
I think literally the only entrepreneurship, I guess, exposure I got was my parents, like doing their own flyers, marketing their own open houses, like understanding what it meant to develop a relationship with someone and see the benefits. And I think I just saw that happening, but I didn't really like know like what it all meant until later.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, I did develop a clothing brand. By clothing brand, I mean one single T-shirt in one color, one design.
That counts.
And it was called. So we actually had a clique, right? And the clique was called, and I'm not saying this is
a judgment-free zone,
right? Yep. Okay, just being transparent. Yeah. So the clique was called Rice, Beans, and Crackers.
Okay.
And I probably should. I don't have to explain it, nor do I want to.
Yep.
But we were boys. We were tight. We even had like a little like cartoon character holding basketballs of those like specific food products.
Yeah.
And I changed it to which was RBC, and so I changed it to Relations Beyond Color.
Nice.
And so it's like
great
a little
spin.
it was not bad. It hit me while I was driving.
Great
I thought it was
job,
solid.
Man, way to make something like super politically correct.
Oh my god.
You know what I mean?
I knew at that time, it was like important. So
Yeah.
it worked out. So I made that one shirt. But like many new brand owners, if you will, you learn that first, like kind of like, okay, you go to the first screen printer you Google. You go try to set up a deal with them. You find out what a MOQ is, right? Minimum quantity or whatever. And you're like, man, that's a lot of shirts.
Yep. What was it?
Like,
do you remember what it was?
I
like
think it was
300?
250.
Got it.
Yeah. And I'm like, bro, like, I mean, I think about it now. I'm like, I wouldn't even make 250 shirts.
I know.
And have a
Same.
solid brand.
Yeah.
And so, it was 250 white shirts of one screen.
Yep.
And yeah, I was selling shirts for a long time.
And how'd you, like, did you just go around school or something? And be like,
Yeah. So I mean, I first started with like obviously our friends just wearing it, and then started selling them. Tried to do e-commerce. It was a little too complicated for me at the time.
Yeah.
I was like 17, going on 18, and so that was like my first real attempt at like kind of like a business. And then I ended up being just like this huge like workout promo shirt that everybody else got to wear for free or for $5 down the road. But that was like my first real intro to that.
Got it.
And then
and then like when that started to like, I guess, did you just kind of feel like, this isn't quite, like what kept you, I guess, from pursuing it further?
I think what kept me was like, that was that first like wall. And I didn't really know at that time how to get around it.
Yep.
And sometimes it takes time to really realize that that wall could be in front of you, but if you just took like 5-10 steps back, there's a door somewhere, and it's just hard to see because you're so close to that wall. And I think I've come to realize in my life, like now at least, I don't freak out when the walls come. I just kind of observe and try to analyze as best as I can. But at that time, it was, for being 18-year-old Mickey, like it was just a lot to take that, I don't know, call it $2,000 loss, off of like pretty much just like random savings. Like I think I didn't have my first job till I graduated high school, and that was an after school. I was an after school coach for youth services.
Really?
And so I'd set up the carom boards and like play sports, and I think I took a lot of pride in that because it was in a neighborhood, Sylmar, California, and they had a rougher, upbringing or neighborhood than I did, and just being able to see these kids who like even questioned getting to high school, like it's insane as 4th and 5th graders.
And what were they doing in that? Like, what do they do at those sort of things?
Like the after school programs.
Yeah.
So we basically help with homework first, for those that have homework. So it's basically like you're like a tutor at one point, and then at another point you're just setting up like sports activities, games, and like you get to represent your school at like tournaments, like citywide, and just helping develop good, being a good role model while providing kind of like an icebreaker moment, which could be caroms, sports or whatever it may be.
How did you get drawn to that?
So it's so funny. Going to that park, I was coaching there, my little brother and different kids and stuff like that. So I already had that kind of like coach background, knowing sports. And one of the guys that used to run the park was given an opportunity to hire young kids out of high school for that program. And so I moved up pretty quickly because my supervisor was like messing around on her off time. Like, I think she would like take off and like smoke, and she'd be like, "Just watch the park." And I'm just like, I got promoted in like 3 months.
For sure.
And I was like, oh, this is growing up quick. But I wasn't mad. I think I was like making like $18 an hour as like a 19-year-old or something like that. Yeah. And you're like, that's cool.
What do you think do you think you like learned anything from that time frame that like stuck with you?
I'd say management of like even like kids, reflect some adults are kids, like just big kids.
That's very true.
And
I would say most.
Yes, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I think I got most of the management from there, just being able to understand, knowing the infrastructure of like having a boss, I guess, because other than your parents, like, there's no true boss. And I mean, that part of my life was it lasted about a year. I just wanted to see these kids graduate, and that was probably the most important part for me. And then after that was a really quick jump into, I got my real estate license.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this too quickly. Like, did you always have this, because obviously working for a program like that and actually enjoying it and excelling, like there has to be a piece of you that really enjoys sort of looking out for people or that sort of thing. Like, do you think that's something that was just kind of always in you?
Yeah, that definitely comes from my dad. My mom's kind of, I give her a lot of hard time that she was tough, but she definitely helped mold me. But my dad was always kind of the more like chill, laid back guy, and just saying that, being generous goes further than what you see at that moment. Whether you're tipping somebody or whether you're just like talking to someone or shaking a hand or just giving a smile. You don't know how far that goes for somebody who, a kid who might not want to even go home or get picked up by their brother who's doing, up to no good. And those are all conversations that, we had with young adults, like or young kids. Like,
that's crazy. That's really cool. And then what took you from that to real estate?
Parents, straight up. They're just like, you've been showing homes with us since you were 5, being the cute kid, just saying like, look at this big kitchen. Like,
oh my God, Mom, I wish we could live in a house like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All the lines. Yeah. I was ready. If it came out of a kid's mouth, it was cute.
It's so good.
It's a good sales pitch.
I can't believe this price, Mom.
Right. Can you believe it?
It's so good.
It's so much bigger than our house. Like, yeah.
So you were just primed and ready.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen the open houses. I even, at times offered to do them when I was older, and it's just one of those things where they're like, just go for it, see what happens.
Yeah.
And honestly, I went through that real estate crash course and did all the courses and classes and whatever. And I still remember this day, man. Like I went to this like 2 day like just I guess it is a crash course in like Anaheim at a convention center. And like they're like, yeah, you just gotta it's all open book tests, and then you get to that crash course and you're like, all right, cool, like they're gonna teach you the secrets and whatever else. And I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna tell you, I don't know, how to remember something.
Yeah.
And instead it was like, well, if it says sunny in the paragraph, the answer is C. And you're like, what?
Really? They just send you to like a cheating seminar?
Straight up.
That's amazing.
They're like, if it's, if you see the number 500,000, the answer is B. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? Like I paid like $600 for like freaking Game Shark. Like,
yeah,
what's going on?
100%. Wow. And that's what you did.
I passed. Like, I think you have to hit like 70. I hit like 76 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling off because like I went to the real estate exam, and obviously like a lot of people are like, they were older than me in this room, and I just go in, take my exam, and I was done in like, they give you like 3 hours. I think I was done like hour 20.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I'm just seeing all these key words, like it's like just being thrown at me, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just trust it.
And it worked.
It worked.
Jesus
just enough.
Christ. So then, like, when you left there, did you feel like, well, that, like, now what the hell do I do?
Yeah, well, the waiting period and still doing the after school program, and then kind of once I got my license, which was like a big thing because now my parents are like, oh, we're about to build this like super agent, like this kid's young and like I think it was right around when I was turning 19 is when I got my license, and right out the gate, actually, there was a parent from one of the kids I coached who needed a refinance and a purchase of a new home. And, just off commissions, like that first deal, it was like literally like $40K like handed to me, like at 19.
That's so sick.
And I was just like, man, I'm banking. Like I'm good. Like I ain't got to do nothing. Let me go get a digital camera and take like these high def like MySpace pictures.
Is that what you did?
Good. Hell yeah.
Oh, so good. At that age, that amount of money has to feel like.
Oh yeah. I mean, I bought a car cash. It was a Nissan 300ZX convertible.
Yeah.
And like the first thing I did to the car was add a key start, engine key start thing.
Yep.
And
just balling.
Huge, like, 13-inch subwoofers, like custom to the back. Like,
so good.
I'm like, what do I need this for? Like now that I look back at it, and, but yeah, and this was in 2004.
Got it.
So, right before the market was gonna take a tank.
Yeah.
And so I was feeling good, like feeling like, oh, there's so much room to do stuff. Like I'm not worried.
Yep.
But I was too young to see forecasting what was happening.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that big check, one of my close friends from the park was starting to DJ in New Mexico. And because there was nothing to do. Well, not only was it New Mexico, it was like Las Cruces, New Mexico. It was like at the bottom next to El Paso. And he didn't drink at all. So he's this baseball player on scholarship, doesn't drink, has these like, checks from the school, and he's just like, I need to find some way to make either money or take up time at these like parties because like I don't care, you know?
Yeah.
So he bought this like DJ mixer, a couple records, and started DJing. And then he comes back home and it's like tells me this whole thing like, man, this DJ thing, it's so dope, like with the music and da-da-da. And I was listening to a lot of like underground hip hop at the time, like or golden era, if you will, with like just like Tribe, Common, Talib, and different things like that. And Kanye was starting to like pop off, so I go to this like what I thought was a concert. It was Common and Talib Kweli. Still remember, it was like September, like in 2005. And for the longest time, I had the poster still hanging. And it's so funny because the side DJ, like literally like really small letters,
Yeah.
was Diplo,
That's amazing.
playing background music,
Yeah, that's amazing.
hosted by Madlib.
Uh-huh.
And then the performance was Common and Talib Kweli together. And it turned out to be the Guitar Center spin-off, which was a huge DJ competition.
Uh-huh.
And the competition was happening before the concert. And I'm just like, dude, like, what are these guys doing up there with all this, like what is going on? Like, this is mind-blowing. Like,
Yeah.
I got to do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, fast forward, Common brings out Kanye, fresh off College Dropout.
Wow.
Like, performs Jesus Walks.
That was my favorite Kanye.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
To
right?
me, that was
Yeah.
like peak Kanye.
That was like, yeah, this is by far one of the best albums
Yep.
he's ever put out. And I just, you know, I can't forget that night.
Yeah.
And it inspired me to look into this. The actual event was sponsored by Scratch DJ Academy.
Yep.
It's in, I believe, Culver City or Century. Yeah, Culver City.
Yep.
And they were sponsoring the event. Jam Master Jay was the founder of the school or part of the school, and so I just like signed up. You know, I had all this cash. I'm like, I'm gonna go just find a hobby because
Yeah.
I hate being at my desk. I need to go do something else.
Yeah.
And so my boy Joe told me, he's like, yeah, like I've gone there before. Check it out. Whatever. Bought turntables for like $150. 2 turntables. They're belt driven, so they're just really slow.
Yeah.
And this really like POS like DJ mixer just sucked. And with the $150 I got like 5 Wu-Tang records. So I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know?
You're in the game.
I'm in the game.
Yeah.
And so I just went to that DJ school. Like while I was doing real estate, helping out, doing the open houses, and I didn't really find like another like major client for a while. And I got, you know, really caught up in DJing.
Really?
You know, signed up.
And by caught up, you mean just like you became obsessed with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I fell in love.
Yep.
And like just the music side of it, being able to control, like being able to read crowds, and the school environment of it, like just really had me like interested.
Yeah.
And so I had signed up like November of 2005, got like my first gig, I think within a couple months of just starting. And you knew I was like a rookie DJ because I pulled up to Guitar Center and didn't try to negotiate.
Yeah.
I was just like, I want this, I want that, I want this.
Give me it all.
And it's like all the new stuff. And
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, what's like the good mixer?
Yeah.
Okay, what's better than that? And I was just like, let me get that.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right. And they're like waiting for me to say something. And I'm just like, no, I'll take it.
No, full price.
Full price. Plus tax. All of that. Keep it cash.
That's
Here you
so
go.
good.
And I still remember pulling out to my first gig and like literally unboxing like lights and like turn the turntables like brand spanking new.
That's so
like
good.
and it was so funny, man. And then that's where it took a turn. And at the time, you know, the DJs now, you just pull up with a laptop.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes with just like a
It's an
USB
iPhone.
stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, iPhone, you can do whatever.
Here, play.
Just plug it in.
Yeah.
And at that time, when I was going to the school, it was also a record store. So this could have been like a side sales pitch. I'm going to go ahead and say they were sticking to the culture.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they were very much like, to be on a laptop, you got to earn that. And you got to like go through at least 2 years of DJing before you can like use a laptop.
Yeah, that's a sales pitch.
Yeah. A good one.
Yeah. It worked.
And so I bought a ton of records. Like probably spent like $15K just on vinyl.
Yeah.
And I was like digging, and I was trying to like earn my stripes. I was like carrying other DJs' records just to go show up to gigs. You know, I was still like, at least in 2005, I was like still 20, and early parts of 2006. So to get into like different little clubs or bars, like I was just carrying records and nobody questioned you.
Yeah.
And so that was like the real like first part of it. And then doing that for about a year, I finally got like my first like real like gig, which was DJing for thetruth.com. Yep. The anti-tobacco company.
That's it.
I don't know if it
I
was
think it's
.org.
com. You're right. It could
It
be
is com. I was yeah, that's where I was stuck.
Yeah.
But they were super cool. I did this thing for like Cosmo Girl. It was like on the beach. It was the worst. Like vinyl and sand is like does not go together.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But But it was a good experience, and it ultimately led me to DJing for them for 9 weeks on the Vans Warped Tour.
Really?
Yeah,
For Truth.
for Truth. And so Truth had a like mobile truck, and they were just giving away T-shirts on American Apparel, like nice tees. I was like, yo, this is comfy.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it's an expensive program.
Yeah.
But they had like 7 different people that were traveling all together with, including myself and the tour manager,
Yep.
in this like bus, and we would
crazy.
just pull up to a different city every morning, and they would set up. I'd be the guy that showed up like right when the place opened up,
Yeah.
and just DJ, and we would interact and play songs or like dance contests or whatever, just to like build awareness to the anti-tobacco through the shirts or through like games.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it was like 50 something cities,
Jesus Christ.
and yeah,
Crazy.
literally the only place we didn't go was to Canada, because we like Truth doesn't
Yeah.
cover
They
Canada.
don't smoke in Canada.
Apparently not enough.
Did you were you just loving it? Like you were just on cloud 9, or
That was by far the sickest thing. Like,
Yeah.
like being on salary to just play a couple hours a day, like
That's
food was
great.
catered, like, and then like at the time, who was big? It was, well, just for reference, Katy Perry
Yep.
was on the 3rd biggest stage
on the tour?
on the tour. I think it was '08.
The third biggest?
It was either 3rd biggest or 2nd biggest.
Who was on the biggest?
Who wasn't? Gym Class Heroes.
Yep. Big for
Uh,
that time.
Angels and Airways, I think is what was that another?
That sounds right. Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. Confirmed by Dan.
Confirmed. Thanks, Dan. And who else? Because I got tight with, at the time, it was Swayze.
Uh-huh.
That was like popping at that time.
Yep.
And then this other band, 303
Mhm.
from Colorado.
I remember them.
They're cool as man.
So
they're-
all those people were on the whole tour.
yeah.
That's sick. You were on like a real tour.
Yeah,
You know?
because we after we were done, like depending on who was on stage, like we'd get on stage and literally hang out, and like it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's dope. So then did you drop the real estate stuff?
Yes, that was a tough conversation with my parents,
Oh yeah, I bet. Especially to be a DJ.
because it
Because
was
like parents don't understand.
100%. Because and that first like beach tour, if you will, I brought my dad with me.
Yep.
Because it was kind of like that. They had been telling me like, you're just wasting your time. Like, look at the amount of money you're making versus what you could have made. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I wasn't happy. Like, I want to be happy. Like, I
Yeah.
think you guys can respect that. My mom, like, not as much as my dad, but like my dad for sure was like, look, I get it. Like, chase it. Like, do what you want. But like, just remember, like, keep your license. Do this and do that.
Yeah.
And so I had brought him on with me just to show him kind of what I was doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, like starting to get it, but still like confused to why I was pushing so hard for this. And then the Warped Tour was like kind of like, okay, like you're getting a real check now, you know, and like, and you're happy. And so they're happy for me. And when I got back from that tour, I then got offered this to like be one of the first 5 to launch this new program with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. And so pretty much if you work on a cruise ship, you work like 6 months at a time.
Yep.
And they pay you nothing,
Yep.
like peanuts.
Yeah.
And you live in quarters of like peanuts. Like it's the smallest
That
little
seems
thing.
terrible.
Yeah. And so they had launched this new program where they would have guest DJs on board for a month, and you would get a like captain's quarters, so like it's bigger than like normal rooms,
Yeah.
and you would get I guess passengers benefits and employees benefits.
Yep.
So like discounted internet, but you get to use the pool.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's
That's
like,
a good combo.
and free room service, like 24 hours. I'm like,
sick.
this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'll sign up. You know, and I think it was paying, I don't know, like $1,000 a week or like $1,200 a week, and
Yeah.
you're DJing 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So like it's super chill. And then You're not running around spending money on gas.
Yeah.
Most, like, pretty much 90% of the food is covered.
Yeah.
Plus the company gives you like a budget to take people out. So I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like I'm in. So I did that a month at a time. And I think in a span of like 2 years, I did it like 8 or 9 times.
Really?
Yeah. And
where would you go? Like, where'd the cruise go?
So it was Eastern, Western Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So we covered places like Cozumel, Mexico, Belize, Jamaica, Bahamas. They had a private island in Haiti.
Jesus.
And what other stop? San Juan, Puerto Rico.
That had to be pretty cool, right? Did you enjoy that part of it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I didn't really travel much like prior to that. And so that was like an experience in its own. And then we were docked in Miami. So like I'd hang out in Miami for a couple of days every time.
That's great.
And so it was definitely a cool experience. And towards the end, the last one I did, I just did it because every other time they were always like making a bigger ship.
Yeah.
And the ship wasn't like, like this little thing. Like there was the first one I did, I think it was called Freedom of the Seas, had the first ever surf
the wave
simulator.
machine.
Yeah, the wave machine.
Yep.
And then the last one I was on had 3 of those.
Jesus.
Rock climbing walls, a zip line, like a Central Park, like which was like what? Like and it was like 14 levels.
Cruises in general are just so crazy. It's such a crazy like thing.
Yeah.
That people just love.
Yeah.
Man. So why did you quit doing that? You just got cruised out? Just like, bro, I can't. I'm sick of this.
I was cruising too hard.
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to finally make a name for myself outside of that world. Like the corporate world was good.
Yep.
But I knew I wouldn't be able to develop myself as a brand if I kept doing that stuff.
Yep.
And so that's when I really started to make a push towards like DJ nightclubs and different events. And luckily that stuff holds a little weight to like trust you to like do a nightclub, but it was definitely different. Like you're going from playing the cha-cha slide and Macarena to like, like actual nightclub stuff.
Yeah.
And so
was that a hard transition?
It wasn't too bad because that's what I was practicing the most. And there used to be I had this moment where like it really all came together, which was right after I left the cruise ship, a small management group kind of approached me and working together. And so they were already running events themselves. So it was easy to plug me into some clubs, and that's when people started to get to know my name.
Yep.
And
what was your DJ name?
So my DJ name was Miki War.
W-A-R?
W-A-R.
Like you just were a fan of war?
My last name is
I love war.
I'm into like the fighting. I'm a soldier.
I was a soldier.
I'm a soldier. No, so my last name is, my actual name is Michael Ramon Guerra, and Guerra means war.
There it is.
And so Mickey came from just like a nickname from being at the park.
Got it.
And so that's how Mickey War came about.
That's
I wasn't
good.
sure about it
That's
for a
solid.
long time, but it worked.
I wish my name was Chris War.
Hey,
I wouldn't
thanks,
need
man.
drama. It's so much better.
Drama Guerra.
Yeah,
I got
I'll
you,
take
bro.
it, man. I need a rebrand. So then how long did you do like the club DJing world?
So that was like, I'd say 4 to 5 years.
Oh, got it. So you put in like real time.
I put in some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so when I left the cruise ship thing, I was just getting on these like, these corny flyers with all the import models and different things
great.
like that at the time, the hot time. And just trying to do whatever gigs, man, I could get my name across. And then with that small management group, I had like a little breakthrough, which was there was a site that launched at the time that was holding a DJ contest. And the DJ contest was actually judged and selected by DJ Vice. And Vice at the time, of course, and still to this day, has incredible amounts of credibility, and he's the man, right?
Yeah.
So he judged, and I won.
Really?
Yeah, and I won the first ever one. And so that put my name across a lot of like guys' names, and they wanted to book me as like the champion of this contest.
Yeah.
Had I known the contest was going to be monthly,
You had to keep doing it?
they did it every month.
Because you had like a challenger or something? Was it like,
So it
can
was-
they dethrone Mickey Ward?
That'd actually be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I would have took. I
That'd
would
be
have took
dope if you was like king of the mountain type
It's a
thing.
Great idea. Yeah, you just have this like playoff, and it's like to the duel. Like,
Who wants to go to war with Mickey Ward?
it's the
So you
sales
had
pitch.
to literally, you repeated it every month. You just had to.
Well, no, actually,
battle it.
after I won, I couldn't enter again.
Got it.
But what it did is it just drowned out the
Oh, you're
credibility of it. So I had like a solid month of like marketing myself as like this champion
Yeah.
and like this guy that won this thing. And fortunately, it worked enough
Yeah.
to get my foot in a couple doors. And, you know, just through like hanging out with everybody and just getting to know people through years, you know, of developing my name, I finally got an opportunity to be like a resident DJ at this place called Infusion Lounge in City Walk.
Yep.
They're really popular out in the Bay, great nightclub. And then my boy DJ E-Rock, shout out to E-Rock,
Yep.
he just gave me a call one day. He's like, look, I can't be in LA all the time. Like, I want to give you a shot. Like, you're a good dude. And so he gave me a shot at DJing there. And then I just started opening for everybody. And, you know, guys like Reflex and Deluxe and Echo, like all the Scam Artist family.
Yeah.
And so I was just always there. And then eventually E-Rock expanded on what he was doing and could no longer he was the talent buyer essentially at the space.
Yep.
And so me being a local and living 7 minutes away and just knowing everybody in the scene, they offered me the position.
Yep.
And he referred me over, and you know, now I was getting paid to hire my friends.
Yeah.
And it was like,
That's great.
fun.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd get to DJ, and you know, when you're a manager at a nightclub, you kind of get whatever you want in regards to like whether it be alcohol or whatever, and hosting a table. And so I just became everybody's best friend in the Valley. And
It's a great life, especially when you're young.
Yeah.
You know, like I think as you start to get older, it can get pretty taxing.
yeah, I would never.
But man, to be like mid-20s and just like killing it in the DJ scene,
Yeah.
it's a fun life.
Yeah, no, I was like 26.
Yeah, dream come true.
Perfect
Free
time.
alcohol,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
friends in the world.
Yeah, all
Place
of
to
them.
go every night.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
And so that was like kind of that moment. And you know, some of the things I guess you could say it's known. You know, not everybody like talks about it too much, but like people in the positions of being able to talent buy,
Yep.
you know, will swap
Yep.
gigs, you know, into like going into other cities. And so that's when I started going into other cities. And I did that for a good amount of time, and it worked out well. Luckily, I was a good enough DJ that people were bringing me back regardless of whatever leverage I had. And then I think the peak, if you will, of my DJ career was I headlined what's now Jewel at the Arias was Hayes nightclub.
Yep.
And so I headlined that, got a billboard, like digital.
Sick.
So
You had the classic like Vegas billboard.
oh yeah, I have
That's
like
good.
I have that whole like, you know, like 2012 like traditional promo video where it's like you in the club, like
so
bounce it
good.
up, and then like
Damn
get the
it.
billboard in the back.
Do you have any? Did you save it? Do you have photos of the billboard?
I do.
That's so good.
Yeah, I have the video. It's funny.
Yep.
I was like, not just a DJ, I'm a businessman.
So good. Was that your pitch?
Kind of. Yeah.
Ah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Real estate baller turned
Everybody
DJ.
knows Mickey. Nobody knows Michael.
Oh man. And then so and just sort of correct me or fill in if I'm skipping too much, but like how do you go from sort of pursuing this path, having that big moment, to deciding to go a completely different direction?
Yeah, complete.
Like how did that happen?
So it's actually we're not skipping too much because I just got tired of like drinking and being out, and just like it's so, like you said, it's just taxing on your body, and to be quite frank, like just a lot of fake relationships, and like it's just emotionally it took in a lot.
Yep.
I was also at the time in a relationship that it took me a long time to learn that it was holding me back.
Yeah.
And so it took those moments, and I said, you know what, like I need something new. I've developed this network. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of great friendships and relationships, but there has to be another way to leverage this into a different area where I don't have to be drinking every night,
Yeah.
where I don't have to be out all night. And so that's where my brother's apparel line, which was WAR, which
Sick.
stood for We Are Royalty.
Yeah.
We're good
You
with
guys are
acronyms.
good at the acronyms, man. Damn it. The War family knows how to nail an acronym.
So We Are Royalty, he had been developing it, and he was doing well at his school. E-commerce was doing great, and he said, he was like, I think I want to do a flagship back in like the neighborhood we grew up in. It's going to be cheap enough, and let's see what we can do. He's like, do you want to get in on this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm in. Like, whatever I got to do, I'll work the store. I know you got your own job. Like, I'll work the store. You just do the numbers and the reports, and we'll go from there. And so we did. And we built out the store. It was like 1,200 square feet. Built it out ourselves, laid out hardwood, laminate flooring.
Yeah.
Painted the whole place black. That was cool. The cool thing to do.
Yeah, sick.
And then the one thing that I still to this day, I kind of cringe when I look at the pictures is like our fixtures. Like, I didn't even know what a display store was.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what slat wall was. Like, I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't even know how to run a POS, right?
Yep.
Like, this is literally just like me, this DJ, like wanting to just run a shop.
Yeah.
And so we literally bought like those like squared IKEA boxes, like laid 2 of them out across, bought like IKEA drawers, add locks to them, and then we just keep inventory and then fold on top. And it just looked like this like random college bedroom.
Yeah, like a
with
yard
way
sale.
too much stuff, you know? And then like I made these like red frames that were on the wall with like the one featured shirt and like I'd buy like that like battery operated like click light. And I'm like, yeah, it's just hard.
Yeah. So good. Add designer to your portfolio.
Oh yeah, right there the
That's
whole
so
time.
good. So how did that like did it start working from the beginning?
So out the gate, it did well. You know, a lot of support, family support, and my brother and I, we would just, we're designing stuff and just putting stuff out like one tee at a time.
Yeah.
The inspiration behind, at least for him, was very much driven off like Johnny Cupcakes.
Yep.
Very nostalgic. So there's like our top selling design was like this, like it just said War and We Are Royalty in like a Ninja Turtle font.
Yeah.
And it did really well for us, and it went well in the beginning, and then you start to learn like the real part of it, which was like I wasn't paying myself, so my transition from all my like savings from the DJ stuff like really started to deplete really fast.
Yep.
And it got to the point where like I had to sell my DJ equipment, and then it was getting tough, and right around then was when I was approached by 2 guys, one of which I grew up with, and I knew him because he was playing basketball with my little brother, and the other guy I knew just from playing basketball locally in like adult leagues. And he's like, yo, have you ever heard of like Flight Club and like Riff? And I was like, no idea what that is.
Yeah.
He goes, they take in shoes, they do it on what's called consignment. Basically, they take in the inventory, fill out paperwork, sell the shoe, and then pay the consignor or the client, minus the fee. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, well, that's cool. I'm like, I don't know if we do that, but I kind of brushed it off.
Yeah.
And then I had this pair of shoes that I just couldn't sell. It's Air Jordan 4. The colorway is called Toro, so it's all red.
Yeah.
And I just put it on the shelf. And we were like 100 feet away from a high school. And like the pop in like, the Max or whatever, it's called Mighty Mouth.
Yep.
Was on the other end of us. So we'd have literally 500 to 1,000 kids across our door every day.
Yeah.
And kids started seeing the shoe and they're like asking like, what is that? Like how much? Like what size? And it's like I'm a size 12 and not a lot of these kids are even like close to that size. But they were asking the question and it just sparked this interest like, man, like maybe we should do this shoe thing.
Yeah.
Maybe this idea isn't so crazy.
Yeah.
And so we sat down, we did this whole like, we felt like we were on Shark Tank, at a very minor level, and just like, how much equity do you want? How much space do you need? And like, like try to figure it out. And we came to a term, and we tried it out. And just based off the feedback and hearing how everything worked, like I was pretty solid on like Google Drive and creating charts and different things like that. So I just created a business plan.
Yeah.
And we executed. And it did well. Instagram had just started getting its own legs.
Yeah.
So I remember getting to like, I don't know, 8,000 followers. We're like 2013 or whatever. We're like, man, it's popping.
Yeah,
like,
popping.
we're good.
Yeah.
People want shoes. And so we just became this other option because every other store was, either on Fairfax or in Little Tokyo or downtown. Like it was hard for you to be nearby. So if you're in the Valley, this is your Valley store.
Yeah.
And we did that, and that lasted 6 months. And thank God, like I always try to look at the positives, right? But like, thank God we were on a month-to-month lease after 6 months because we would have been screwed. Because at that time, we just, friendships are one thing, but like when you're doing business with friends, and like I mentioned before, my brother, like that's when we really started to feel the hardships.
Yeah.
And sales started going down. My interest in the sneaker side of things was getting higher versus like, pushing the brand. And so, trying to find that balance, not knowing, being in a new space, it was tough, man. And
was it called Magnolia Park then?
No.
So it was just you partnered with these guys to add that element to your pre-existing store.
Yeah, but we did give it a name, and it was something else.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah. I love that. And then what would you attribute like the reason why it started not working to?
Well, the sneaker thing was working. We just couldn't get on the same page regarding like paperwork and just reports. And, not to like give anybody a pass, but like at the end of the day, like if you're going to step up and say, this is my responsibility, you got to do it. Friendships are not. And, it's like, I think I remember Tupac saying this, like, we're going to knock on the door and it'll start off like really lightly. But if you don't open the door, like, then we're gonna start knocking harder, and then we're gonna come through. Yeah. And so that's essentially how it is, and for me, at least in business, is like, look, I'll politely ask, and I'll be patient, but like if you don't turn results, then now we got a problem, and we got to speak up. Yeah. And because there's 4 partners in this that are waiting on you. Yeah. And so it was hard to get transparency. Trust started becoming an issue. Yep. There was basically this huge explosion of almost took that out.
Real explosion.
Yeah, real explosion. Pause. But
mega pause.
Yeah, major pause. But there was just this moment where we realized we couldn't be partners together. Yep. And at that time, it was just like, okay, like, without getting into it too crazy, we asked them to take their stuff, get out of our store, and we chose, for the benefit of safety, if you will, to literally lift the floor off that store that night. Yep. And our closest friends came by, tore it down, it hurt, and we put everything in storage, and took me like a month to like look around that wall. Yeah. And realize like what just happened. Yep. But when it all settled down, I remember having a conversation with my good friend Eric Flores, who works at Moose Limited now, but he used to have this store called Backside Records in Burbank. Yep. And they carried a bunch of dope brands, and he was talking to me about bringing in a sneaker program because he had seen what we were doing. And I'm like, man, you're in Burbank, like prime location, and you're gonna bring in a sneaker program? Like you might do some damage. Like, and I hit him up because he had just talked about it, and I said, do you have anybody in mind for that specifically? And he's like, well, we have one person, but they're like, busy and this and that. I was like, look, let me give you a business plan. Let me know what you think. Yeah. And, maybe we could do it. It'll be called Backside Kicks, And we agreed to it with the other partner. And with like $1,000, we created this like slat wall with just like shelves. Yeah. And I took in 150 pairs of shoes to open. And this was June 21st, 2014. And we shut down May 1st, 2015 due to lack of support and wanting to expand. They're like, well, if you want to expand, not Eric, this other partner, but like, they're like, if you want to expand, go do it yourself. Or I'll put in money, but I want more equity. And I'm like, dude, you don't do anything. Yeah. So but I appreciate the opportunities. Just at a certain point, you outgrow certain opportunities, and in that time, we did about $650,000 in sales, gross sales.
Jesus, yeah.
Off $1,000 like loan, if you will.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of guys who trusted and saw the opportunities. To this day, I gotta give a shout out to my guy Steven. He's like been my right hand man since then, where he would literally finish his shift at Finish Line and come work for free at that shop.
That's so dope.
And now he's running the biggest store that we have, and he's definitely one of the guys that I trust to run the business in general. But anyway, we shut down May 1st, and in between that time, I met this guy who was shopping with his kids, and he just gave me this like metal business card, and he goes, "Call me if you ever need money." I was like,
all right,
I
deal.
mean, see you tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
But I took my time, and I didn't know what all that meant, and we had a couple conversations, and launched, or short story long. We ended up trying out some business, and they became one of our biggest consigners, if you will. We set up a deal with them, and then when we had to move, was when we started looking for new locations.
Yeah.
And I was already in Burbank, so that's how we actually landed in Burbank.
Yeah.
And it just became this project now where we're like, all right, we'll develop a brand, we'll develop a name, we'll pick out a spot. And I was honestly looking for a spot that was maybe, because our space that we had there was probably like 800 square feet, maybe max. We were in their like upstairs area. It looked dope, but it was like 800 square feet. So we're like, all right, if we get a store, we're probably looking at like 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Half of it would be storage, the rest would be showroom.
Yep.
So we're walking down the street on Magnolia, and we find a space that's 5,000 square feet.
Jesus.
And I'm just in there like, we're not about to do this. Like, this is like crazy. And thankfully, my partner was a visionary himself. And it was literally what I remember the most about this place was it was the only place I took my phone out to take a picture.
Yeah.
Like we had seen a bunch of spots, but like I didn't see it.
Yep.
And then this was the only spot. I still have the photo, the original photo. It was like a panoramic photo. Place looked terrible.
Yeah.
It smelled terrible. And Magnolia Park is a great neighborhood, and they're going through this weird transition right now where the rent's getting really high. Yeah. This was back in it was summer 2015, and it was filled with antique stores, and they're slowly kind of disappearing. Unfortunately, like I love the vibe, but rent's getting crazy, and at the time it was being ran by this guy who was just hoarding stuff, and apparently he was also keeping his like dogs in there, and they're just like pissing and shitting everywhere.
So that's why it smelled like terrible.
So it smelled terrible.
Yep.
And it took, I think we literally grinded, because we wanted to keep the original flooring upstairs. Yeah. We literally grinded that thing like 6 times to like where it finally like, okay, it doesn't smell. Yeah. Yeah. And so so that eventually became what was Magnolia Park. Yeah. And that was like a huge beef that I had with my partners at the time, because the area is called Magnolia Park. Yeah. And I was like, how are we going to just name it that? Like, that's so lazy. Yeah. And to their defense, the name I had wasn't so great. It was Community without an I, because there's no I in community.
Could have worked.
Could have worked.
I mean, that's not. I've heard worse.
Yeah. And I just like the idea of like having like a C as like a logo, like, and build around that. Yeah. And but I got outvoted by everybody. So, but I'm not mad at it now. You know?
It's hot now. I didn't even know. Yeah. The funny thing is, this whole time I didn't know that was an area in Burbank. Yeah. So I just thought that was like, and when you kept talking about the park growing up, I thought maybe that was called Magnolia Park.
So that's my spin on it now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Because I didn't look at it the way I did, like that I do now, understanding what the brand really means to me and where it ties all in. And, at the end of the day, the Magnolia Park part of it, at least the park side of it, it's where I grew up. It's what I'm about. And so every store has a sporting or basketball element specifically.
Yep.
Burbank has a half court. We like imported the wood, like
That's sick.
that. It was like the craziest thing. And I even remember I go to my gym membership is at the Los Angeles Athletic Club, and they have this like the John Wooden court or whatever, and that inspired it to be like a stained brown court. Like it all drives inspiration from everything else. And so the first 3 stores all have a basketball court. Actually, shoot. All of them have a basketball court except for the Melrose, which is your old spot.
Yeah, our old showroom.
The Poinsettia, yeah. And so, but they all have basketball courts. Topanga actually has a full court.
Really?
Yeah.
In the store?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So it's just this huge white, long gallery-looking basketball court.
That's
so
sick.
dope.
Yeah.
The guy that does all of our mural work, I've known him since he was 8 years old.
Wow.
Alex Ali Gonzalez. He's done some awesome murals, and he like hand painted the entire store.
That's so cool.
Like, it was dope. And then DJ booth, is in there.
Classic.
And so it's got all the elements,
Yep.
that we were a part of.
How many stores do you have now?
So now it's 5.
Jesus.
We had Burbank first, August 2015, August 29th, 2015. Then I did a pop-up at Hall of Fame on Fairfax.
Yep.
And we were there for about a year. And then they needed to grow into a different space.
Yep.
So then we left, and that's what inspired us to go to Poinsettia.
Yep.
And found that place, started working on it while we ended up opening up Orange County, which is in Buena Park, at the Source Mall. And then we were still working on Poinsettia. I don't know why that took so long. So we had a concept for it. It got delayed, but anyway, we ended up opening this pop-up or this opportunity for a 1-month pop-up at the Westfield Topanga Mall.
Yeah.
And it was like a really easy setup where it's just like it was a true religion. You just go in and fill it up with stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think my build out was like $1,000.
Yep. That's great. Dream
And so-
scenario.
yeah, dream scenario. So then it went really well for us, and the mall, they've shown us a lot of love and opportunities and stuff like that. So we just stayed month to month.
Yeah.
And so then that was in December 17th. So then January 18th, we opened up Melrose Poinsettia finally. And then just recently in May, we opened up inside of Planet Hollywood at the Miracle Mile.
Yeah.
Store number 5.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And how's it been going? So, like, would you say that this one is like the combination of the right team, the right partners, the right brand, and like that's what really made this one explode? Or is that not completely accurate?
To make the Vegas?
Meaning,
or are you saying
no, just meaning like just Magnolia
the
Park
company?
as a whole. Like it kind of feels like you had a couple like false starts almost because
Yeah.
bad partners, everything wasn't quite right. Like, do you
Right.
think this one really exploded because everything just made sense? Or like,
I think it was a combination of partners, timing, and just general maturity on my end. Being able to manage a store, just do all the research, and backside was kind of like this like training wheels for me. And then once we had the right team, and they matured as well. And I think that's the one thing I tell everybody all the time, and it's like I take pride in my staff more than I take pride in like what I'm doing. Like what I'm doing is I'm just gonna do it.
yeah, it's so important.
However it reflects is how it's going to reflect. But like, they're the ones that I'm like really trying to push because if they're doing well, then I'm going to do well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it reflects back on the whole thing,
Yeah.
So you think that has a huge part to do with it, to just kind of general maturity,
That has a huge part to do with it. And it's funny because in our world, it's like people talk about investors or whatever, like it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, like, number one, like I'm not shy to share how things have happened, but growing up or just in general, my brother, like we'd always sit there and watch Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And now The Profit as well or whatever, right?
Love
And you're just like, man, like we're gonna be there.
Yeah.
We're gonna have an idea, and that idea is gonna be worth, I don't know, Mark Cuban, like investing in it, and that's like a goal.
Yeah.
And you know, it when we first started Mag in August 15, it took a 7-figure number to get it going with inventory and build out and everything else.
Yep.
And August 17, we did another 7-figure deal where we sold a big chunk of the business, but it was in a way that it restructured where I became the majority shareholder.
Yep, that's
And,
huge.
Which was
So you had your Shark Tank moment.
I've had one
Yeah.
of what I figure to be another 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So
Did some of the money come from the guy with the metal business card?
yes, he was the first one. So he was the first one.
Got it.
And then
I thought so. I thought that's what you were saying, but I just wanted to make sure I got that right.
Yeah. I didn't get too clear on that part, but yeah, I ended up doing business with him.
That's great.
And he was a huge mentor for me. Very successful guy, still killing it in the real estate world. And I just learned a lot, you know, from him, and he put me in the position to really lead our team.
Yeah.
That eventually got us to that point in August 17, which at the time I was a minority partner, and I just happened to find another investor who was eager to get in this business, and him and I, you know, came to this kind of agreement where it's like I can help him in more ways than just the business, this business, and so we were able to structure it so that I became a majority, which was like, to me, to this day, I'm still like, I don't know how that happened. I don't know why, but it was the biggest move.
Yeah, that's a home run.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question is like, where do you go from here, right? Like, I'm fascinated by the reselling industry, and I think part of it is that I don't fully, I don't want to say I don't understand it, because I understand what you do, but I think that like the demand for it and like how to compete against other people, and obviously you've built a great brand, and I know that has a lot to do with it. And we talked about how, you know, it makes a difference when people are carrying a Magnolia Park bag and wearing the shirt, and that really means something. But like, is this something that you see could be like, could you have 100 stores across the country, or like where do you see it going?
So, I mean, I never count anything out, for sure. I'm definitely in a position today where, like, if you had asked me 7 months ago, 8 months ago, like, would you be here?
Yeah.
I'd be like, you're insane.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think it's possible for sure to eventually get to that point. I think for now, what I'm still even working on is, I think we figured out the brand part, right? Like, we're just developing, whether it be through collaborations and things like that. We've had some pretty good like peak moments, you know? And I think now it's just, okay, let's get this like infrastructure like fully like set, you know, front to back, and finding ways to continue to develop, because right now what the shift is in the resale market, right, is these apps. StockX and GOAT have really like shifted the market. GOAT, incredibly successful. They've even like purchased into Flight Club, or actually purchased Flight Club. And, you know, for a big dollar amount. And to me, like, everybody was looking at me like, are you worried? I was like, nah, like, that just gave us the biggest like greens like check for anybody else with a big bank to come look at us.
It sure did.
And see what we got going on, you know? And there's other guys who, you know, have done the same thing, and they're being looked at the same way. And I think it just verifies that we're in the right category for that bigger picture.
And just quickly, because I don't know, like, what's the difference between what GOAT does, like on their app and stuff like that, and StockX and those guys, and what you're doing? Obviously, I know yours is brick and mortar, but what are they doing on the app? Is it just the same thing, but just a really well done app? Or
it's essentially the same thing. I mean, you could call it like a very focused eBay, right? Based on categories. StockX, I know some guys over there, and so I don't have anything really bad to say. I've definitely heard some interesting testimonials like about experiences. I've had one myself where something wasn't like authentic, and it was marked authentic. But I'm not saying that all their stuff is like that, because we're all human and things happen. But I think with them, it's just competitively, people are starting to now walk into our stores with StockX out. Like it's Amazon. Like, are you price matching?
Yeah.
And it's just like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that how you
know?
treat it?
I mean, we don't just say like no. It's just like at the end of the day, here's what I tell a lot of my friends at least is, we're not charging you for the product. We're charging you for the convenience of having the product, because certain items, like people waited a week, a day and night to get this item, or a couple days. And so you're not paying for the actual material, because people always say like, oh my God, you're selling a shoe that costs $10 for $500. Well, it's like, like that part of the work, like, and it sucks. Like I wish I could control that part, but I don't.
Let's talk about everyone's iPhone.
Yeah,
right.
Like, exactly.
You can't play that game.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, for everybody who wanted the iPhone first, like what happens? Guys pick them up, they sell them for a markup, right? Because you got to sleep in, because you got to like chill and take your time and just be like, you know what? I got it. Swipe the card.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I think we really pay for. And so the reason why I justify our pricing to be a little higher, for the most part, not all the time, but is the fact that you can walk out with it on your feet that moment. And so there's a convenience to doing that, because when you order from StockX or Go, I think the best time that you'll get from them is like 5 business days, which regardless of how it's set up, like you're going to be waiting through the weekend to another week. So it's like a week and a half process. And so that's really the convenience. And so for us, I see us expanding much larger into our e-commerce space, potentially launching our own form of like website or app that kind of follows what they're doing. Difference being that with us, we'd actually have brick and mortars locally to do, like even now we offer a Postmates. Like I got a guy who literally every time a new Yeezy comes out, you see an order Postmated to Beverly Hills. Like this guy's like, send over the fried rice, the Portos, and my Yeezys, and they're there.
That's so good.
And so being able to offer that, being able to offer a pickup location, it changes a little bit of the structure, which is probably what GOAT might be doing with Flight Club. But, I think that definitely shifts where we're headed and what we want to do with the game. And just honestly, like we just got to step up our web, which we've been working on now for some time, because to this day, as it stands right now, like I built that website. And it still pulls in great numbers on its own. And I said it even in the panel, like we've probably spent $20 on marketing since. And we were lucky with influencers working with us and just showing love. That we haven't had to do that, but I definitely see us like expanding in those areas, because there's only so many people you could bring into a brick and mortar store, but the reach is really infinite, right? When you're on the web.
Yeah, so true. It's just so interesting to me. I feel like it's such a new space, and it's something that I think for a long time maybe people didn't take as serious as it deserved to be. And I think the same way, to your point of like that big acquisition between Goat and Flight Club, I do think opened a lot of people's eyeballs to like, holy shit, this is something that we can't ignore.
Yeah, and then LVMH gets into Stadium Goods, and then now Stadium Goods is setting up a partnership with Nordstrom's. And you're just like starting to see all these different little like essentially traditional wholesale or retail companies adapting in this resale business. It's like, okay, like our time is coming. And I think we were fortunate enough that we kind of like, I feel like the door was closing at a certain time, and we just snuck in as like one of those like brands.
Because why is it hard now? Like, let's just say I came to you and I'm like, yo, Miki, obviously I wouldn't do this because I wouldn't just, completely try to rip you off. But I was like, Miki, I'm going to start a reselling, whatever. I got a cool space.
Right.
It's right next to you. It's, on Beverly. Why is it harder now?
Because you've seen it 20 times over.
So it's like, why go to me?
Right.
Like how do you create?
Like people will still go. You know what I mean? Like, but your growth rate is going to be, the growth rate would be tougher than when we got in it
Yep.
for us,
Yep.
right? We like I see it now. I mean, our even our social media is like they skyrocketed at a certain point, and then now they've started to plateau, and we now have to get creative in a sense of creating different kinds of content, building our own YouTube channel. You know, like expanding into that area. For the longest time, we could be carried on with like our influencer friends or just be featured as like, you know, a guest on somebody else's vlog.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, you have to like carry your own brand and just continue to develop, you know, and grow.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's just so cool. I don't know. I love when like this industry sort of pops up that I didn't realize how serious it was. And then now it's just like the thing, and you guys are in the game, and you're like very much so where the action's at. You know? And that's cool.
For a certain amount of time, I definitely even questioned myself, like where I was like, I gotta, like, this has gotta be another leverage point to what the next big thing is. And then as the moment started to arise and you get this like, you know, this other round of investment and, you know, it's just like, and then I'm starting to see like the bigger picture. It's like, man, like it's really sky's the limit for us. And, it's exciting to like play through it, you know, and see how to shift.
It is. What about these like one-off guys like Benjamin Kicks and like those guys? Is it similar? What are they doing?
I know Ben.
Yeah.
We're cool. I think with him, I mean, I've heard a bunch of different things, and I don't like to speculate.
Yeah.
But I think they essentially do the same thing. They provide a service.
But it's more of like just his clientele or something like that?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to wrap my head around it. And even for the people listening, like, you know, because my whole thing is this. What if you're listening right now and like, okay, I'm going to ask you a question for all of these people. Yeah. And you just tell me whatever you think.
All right.
If I'm a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And I am in, I don't know, Chicago.
Yeah.
Right, outside of Chicago. And I see what Ben's doing, I see what you're doing, I see Flight Club, I see all this action, and I say, you know what, man, this is going to be my thing.
Yeah.
Is the advice like, you're too late?
No.
What would you say?
There's a couple ways. If you're just getting started, I would highly suggest, number one is finding your local store or person of interest in the category and pick their brain because every demographic is different. What might be hot in Chicago might not be hot in LA and vice versa. And know your resources. Like in our case, you can only buy the hot stuff from individuals or there's this like really dark kind of unspoken world of buying from stores, and it's known, you know.
It's known, but it's like not allowed to be spoken
as
about.
long as names aren't mentioned, but like it's known.
And for the listener, that is because it will mess up their relationship with the brands, right?
Well, let me I'll clarify that part. Why a retail store? Because people get mad, right? Like when we show up and we have 100 pairs of, I don't know, off-white Nikes, right? Show up on our basketball court, and people are like sitting there like, you know, besides hitting me up like, hey, what's up, how you been, you know, all that,
of course.
It's also very much like, this is why the sneaker game is messed up, because guys like these dudes are like buying all these shoes and they're marking them up 3-4 times. It's like, well, first of all, I'm not buying it for retail. Like there's somebody at that store, it could be the manager, it could be the store owner, whatever. Like you're literally tipping them like something over retail. Yeah. And they're running it through their business as retail. Yeah. But somebody else is pocketing that money. Yep. Now, if it's the manager, it's kind of a problem. If it's the store, well, yeah, it's because they get, let's say in a month, 30% of the inventory they get is hot. Yep. And stuff they can't hold on to and people are waiting in line for. Yep. And then 70% is crap. Yep. Like it's just like, I mean, not crap, but it's just stuff that you're not really like selling out of.
There's a big difference.
It's just huge, right? And so to make up for that 70% that you're going to eventually put on sale or on clearance or just get rid of, you have to find a way to make up those margins on this other stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's your leverage.
Yeah.
And that's the relationship, and it's to the point where like if the store owner is like having a child, you send them a pair of like infant kids, just like, hey,
Yeah.
congrats.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
that kind of
so
relationship.
cool. I like the element of like almost like you're almost like a drug dealer in some aspect. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, you're like a mafia guy.
Yeah,
Sick.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's legit the closest you could get to like selling drugs.
Yeah.
And it's like
literally like you get to have the illegal rush
Yeah.
without it being illegal.
yeah,
Sick.
pretty much.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And so that's how prices are marked up. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And people, unfortunately, the consumers who quote unquote they want to wear them.
Yep.
I tell everybody like nobody's a reseller until they get their hands on a hot shoe, and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, this thing's for sale.
Yeah. Or everyone's buying two.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of the kids in
Oh,
the
yeah.
office will buy two and you sell one and pay for the other one.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the old.
It's got
the big
free
trick in the
hot
book.
shoes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you got to just leverage your relationships, I think. And so that kid, if let's say Chicago, right? I'm thinking RSVP gallery. I'm thinking all the different like flagship Jordan stores. Like I'm thinking where I can get the hot stuff, and start there and start slow. And then from there, you can either try to sell on your own,
Yeah.
right, or consign, right, just to learn the business.
Yeah.
So invest in yourself, invest in the knowledge, right, because that takes a second, and then from there you can start to develop your brand.
Yeah.
And I think the brand you just have to commit to, and just consistency.
Yeah.
Like that's what's really important.
Yeah, I think the brand will play a big role, and I think that's why you've been able to do so well and will continue to do so well. But like, is naturally more people are going to try to get into it. And, at the end of the day, if everyone's selling similar items for a similar price, the brand and the longevity and the trust,
Yeah.
just like any other, I think it seems like a lot of people have been able to get away with running a business without caring at all about a brand just because the items are so hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
Like if
that-
you have the off-white Nikes, you have the off-white Nikes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you haven't had to do that. But I think that's where you guys are really in a great spot going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hit it on. I mean, hit it around the nail because like I forgot to mention even like probably the biggest, most important part to all of this is being a trusted brand. Like
Yep.
to have authentic items and things like that. Because, like I said, some apps, you've heard some stuff, and then there's been other stores that'll post something and they'll delete the post because people are just like, oh, this is fake, and this and that.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we haven't had any issues with that. And even to this day, like I still follow a account which I got a lot of shit for following this account that makes fake shoes. And they're like, why? Like you're buying from them. You're like, there's no wonder you guys are like whatever. And I'm just like, dude, like, am I not supposed to do my homework?
Yeah.
Am I not supposed to see what updates just came out on the new fake shoes?
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy because the most giving thing in a fake shoe
Yeah.
is the glue.
Yeah.
How the shoe smells.
Yep.
That's my way of saying, oh yeah, this is real. It's not fake.
Yeah.
You know, but
I get it.
authenticity, man.
Let me ask you this. This is my big ender.
Okay.
Did I miss anything?
I think we've covered most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My big thing is like if you know what, there's two.
Okay.
The first thing is through all this process, all these ups and downs and all the wall. I love the comparison that you make about like hitting the wall and then, everyone when they're young, the first time they hit the wall, they just quit, and then you learn
100%.
like probably once a year you hit a wall or however often.
Every week.
Yeah, exactly. Like it feels like almost every morning. And then you
Yeah.
learn to get the different perspective and kind of figure out the door. But
Yeah.
my question is like of all of the things that at the time you called a failure,
Yeah.
which one would you point out as like your favorite or the one that made the most, you learned the most from, or at the time might have been the most devastating, but set you on the right path? Does any of those stick out to you?
I'd say two. I think they both hold a certain weight to me in their own way. The first one would definitely be the first partnership where my brother was involved. That's the failure I'm most grateful for because I genuinely feel that saved our brotherhood,
Yeah.
and it's what's made us closer. And at the time, we would speak, but it wasn't like, like really much about anything else but the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, I can say present day, like we speak every day.
Yeah.
We tell each other we love each other.
Yeah.
Like that was even something that wasn't like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we just make sure we're all good.
Yeah.
He checks in on me more than I check in on him.
Yeah, that's great.
He even like creepily checks my location because we share our locations.
Hey man, I see you've been over there at the Young and Reckless office for a while. Are you podcasting?
You all right?
What's going on?
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
So he'll check in on me randomly.
That's
and
good.
then the other failure that just stands out would have to be the backside kicks one. Because I felt like for a long time there I thought that was gonna be it. And I thought that was gonna be the brand I was gonna roll with. And then just kind of learning self-worth, value, and it was really then, and I guess you could say I missed this part because I promoted a lot, but I'm a very spiritual person. At that time when all that went down, I was at a very low time, and it's crazy because I think about it now. There's like so many motivational, inspirational speakers, and I remember just being at that time, and it wasn't like the popular like route at the time. And I was listening to this guy Eric Thomas, who's like the hip hop preacher.
Yep.
And he was great for me wanting to like just get myself started, get things going. And at a certain point, I was just like, man, like there's like all this advice coming from every single angle, and this and that. I'm like, I need to find something that's like greater than all this. And that's where I ended up finding my church, got baptized like as a grown man, and just like found this new sense of peace where like I trust like the walls.
Yep.
And I trust whatever's happening is part of this plan. And I just let it go. And that's why like when you say 100 stores, instantly I'm like, whoa. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, you never know.
Like, so true. Yeah, I agree. I think you can definitely get like motivation overload. You know what I mean? And so when you like, even some of the books I read are like a little bit more like spiritual and stuff like that. And it's like, this just seems like a little bit more calming as opposed to like, get out there. What are you waiting on? Grind. You know what I mean? Gets a little overload.
Because the motivational part is so heavy on you. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it can make, I think there's some backlash. There's like inspiration hangover.
Yes.
Where it can be like, damn, I'm a piece of shit every day. Like no matter what you do, it's like, damn, this guy just yelled at me.
Deluxe, it was his PPD. I think there's like
PPD, post-party depression?
Yeah. I think there's PID.
There is, man. Post-inspiration. There is. We're going to need to start diagnosing. You know what I mean? It's like, have you had a very good day and everything went just as planned, but you still feel like a lazy piece of shit? Maybe you have PID.
PID is perfect.
That's good.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like, the one thing from all that just comes to me is, like, so many things are in your reach, right? Like, within hand's reach, and it's what you can touch. And then too many times people get caught up in what they can't reach. And it's like, the faster you get over what you can't reach, like the faster you'll get to where you need to be.
That's huge. Okay, last thing. If you could go back in time in a time machine and you could just kind of walk up behind little Mickey and you could put your hand on his shoulder as he's running around the San Fernando Valley in 120-degree blazing hot weather and you could sort of tell yourself anything. I always like to say like, almost like something that maybe took up a lot of your time between now and then, or then and now. Pointless worrying, pointless concerns, pointless insecurities, whatever it was. What would you tell the young version of yourself to like help you along?
That's such a funny question, I think. I'm thinking about little Mickey. I think I would tell him to just expect all the speed bumps or the walls. And the faster you make a decision, the faster you'll get around it. Because all those first ones, like you mentioned, man, are just like tough. Because they're the first ones. And I think being able to tell them just, trust that you're headed in the right direction. And, worry about what you think of you, not what others think of you. I think I as a young kid, even to my like young adult, like I'd care a lot about what other people thought who I was versus finding out who I really was. And so I'd say that.
Golden. You killed it, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for coming and doing this.
No, thank you for
I
having me.
appreciate it, and congrats on everything. And I just, like I said, I can't wait to see where you take it. Like, you've built a really strong brand. You've been in this for a long time, and I think that you're in it at the absolute perfect time.
Yeah.
And I just hope when you do some massive multi-million-dollar deal, that you don't forget about, your friends.
We go old man party it up.
Yeah.
Pop prune juice.
There you go. My man, thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
There it is.
Guys, if you like that and you want to see more like it, as well as vlogs, other web series, and all the random stuff that I'm doing here on YouTube, don't forget to click that subscribe button. You won't regret it, I promise.